For this video, I'm going to go over a few things that you need to know that don't really fit into any one of the specific sections. So the first thing we're going to look at is percent increase and decrease. When something goes up or down, we often want to know what the percentage was that it went up or down. So you're given two numbers. If they go up, it's an increase. If they go down, it's a decrease. So to find the percent increase or decrease, you take the difference of the numbers, subtract them so that you get a positive. We're not talking about a negative percentage at all. So subtract the numbers and then divide by what the original was. That, of course, should give you a decimal. You would multiply it by 100 to make it into a percent. So, for instance, last week, I think the gas prices were $1.94 a gallon. That's what they were near me. And this week, they went up to $2.19 a gallon. So to find the percent increase or decrease, in the numerator, you're going to subtract the numbers. So 219 minus 194. And you're going to divide that by the original price. The original price was the 194. That's what it was last week. 219 minus 194 divided by 194, you get 0.12886. Now to change that to a decimal, you multiply by 100, which simply means you move the decimal point and you would get 12.886. And it went on. If you wanted to round that to the nearest percent, that would be a 13% increase in price. So anyone that has had difficulties with percent increase or decrease, that's all you need to do for those. The next thing I want to look at, just to make sure that you remember this, you should have all in the past sometime had the Pythagorean theorem. Okay, I don't often write that whole thing out. I usually abbreviate it, but the Pythagorean theorem works with right triangles. A right triangle is a triangle that has one right angle, and it's usually marked like that. And we'll usually label the legs, the two sides that make the right angle, as A and B, and the side opposite the right angle is called the hypotenuse. And we label that C. Now, it doesn't matter which side you label A or B, but it is important that it's a hypotenuse that's C, because the Pythagorean theorem says if you square the hypotenuse, that's equal to A squared plus B squared. So to look at a couple examples of this, I'm going to write this up there so that I can erase some of this. let's say you're given that. The two legs are 6 and 8. To find the hypotenuse, c squared equals 6 squared plus 8 squared, or 36 plus 64. So the hypotenuse squared is equal to 100. To find out what c is, you need to take the square root. The opposite of squaring is taking the square root. So that's how we would solve this. That would give us c, and you take the square root of 100, and that would give you 10. So that's how you find the third side of a right triangle. In this case, the hypotenuse. There are a couple other things that were actually covered in the crossword puzzle that you did, and you should know those definitions. But just to make sure, I want to go over just a couple quick definitions of triangles. An acute triangle has 3 acute angles. And acute means that the angles measure less than 90 degrees. So an acute triangle is going to look something like that. An obtuse triangle is a triangle that has one obtuse angle. So that would be an obtuse triangle. A triangle can only have one obtuse angle, because if that angle is greater than 90 and the sum of the angles add up to 180, you can't have more than one that's bigger than 90. And then, of course, we've worked with right triangles, and a right triangle has one right angle, which we usually mark with a little square. Okay, then those were all named according to their angle measurements. We can also name triangles by their side measurements, or the lengths of their sides. And the first one we have is a scalene triangle. A scalene triangle has 3 unequal sides. Okay, doesn't have any sides that are the same length. An isosceles triangle we would mark like that. It has at least 2 equal sides. And then we have an equilateral triangle, and an equilateral triangle has 3 equal sides. An isosceles triangle says it has at least 2 equal sides, which means if it has 3, we call it an equilateral triangle, but it also qualifies as an isosceles triangle. Often when we're working with an isosceles triangle, we don't know what the third side is, and we don't know if it's equal or not. So that's why an isosceles has at least 2 equal sides. Okay, and that ends what we're going to go over in this video. I hope this has helped clarify some of the things that you weren't sure about.